Lights up bright, dope, Campbell Stadium is alive. Seminoles rise and fight to survive. Helmet gleam under that blazing sun. Florida State where champions run. Seminole sideline 365. Feel the roar, we're coming alive. Garnet and gold in the battle we thrive. This is our house where legends arrive. Turf torn up under Seminole feet. The war chant pounds to the heart's own beat. Chop through the noise like a storm in the sky. 2025, we reach for the high. Seminole sideline 365.
Welcome back to Seminole Sideline 365. My name is KB, and with me, as always, is the old man. And we got a good amount to talk about tonight. Welcome back from the weekend. We hope you guys are starting off the week strong and warm, depending on where you are. If you're not in the snow like I am, that is a good thing for you. But yeah, we got a good stuff from the weekend. Heisman stuff, portal stuff, coaching stuff. We had some decommitments. Now coaches are decommitting from Florida State, so that's a great thing to see. But yeah, we'll go into all of it. There's more news coming out today from the transfer portal in terms of big quarterbacks, big time quarterbacks hitting free agency, and could those be players that Florida State in the staff
or big time busts? We'll
discuss that. We'll discuss that. And I'm not just talking about DJ Lagway. There's a lot of other quarterbacks that have entered today. So the quarterback market is hot, and it will get hotter. And that's something, a position of need, or that's what a lot of people think is position need for Florida State. So we'll analyze that, and we'll look at what coaching positions Florida State still needs to sign, and these are critical ones. So we'll go into that. And then let us know in the chat if there's anything else you guys want to discuss or think we should be discussing or talking about, or your comments on what we're discussing, and we'll throw those up on the screen. But before we get into that, is there anything else you'd like to bring up before we dive into it?
No, down here in Central Florida, beautiful weather. I'm on the road. I'm down here in Tampa, Florida, and the weather has been beautiful. A little chilly for Floridians. You know, Floridians are not used to the north. You know, and like 20 degrees and 10 degrees. What's the temperature in your area?
It's like 24, 25 today, I think.
Okay. You know, we're not used
25,
to that.
yeah, 25
If
right now.
if we get into the 50s, if we're into the 50s, that's cold. You know,
you want to see cold? Did you see the Bears game yesterday?
No.
When they the lady tried to open up her Pepsi at the game, it froze as soon as she tried to pour it out. It froze in the cup.
That's crazy. I don't.
That's cold. That is cold.
It was
it's
like a slushy. Yeah, it's like a 7-Eleven slushy.
Look, it's liquid, and then as soon as she opens it, it freezes them.
Is that a Pepsi or an RC Cola?
RC Cola, yeah.
RC
But
Cola.
look, you can see it freezing as soon as it hits the air. It freezes.
The air. That's amazing. You know, I don't know how. I don't know what the temperature was there. I assume single digits.
It was below I think it's supposed to be like 6 or something. Like
that's
great.
That's crazy. I don't know how, because you're outside all day. You're tailgating, right? For what, 3 or 4 hours, maybe, and then you're sitting inside for another 3-4 hours. It can be very dangerous.
So with the wind chill, it dipped to -6 degrees.
Oh my!
The fourth coldest game, I think they said, of all time.
They should give those people
for the Bears
a free ticket. I mean, that is crazy. But you know, I'm older, so maybe my enthusiasm is not quite that. I don't think it was that good when I was younger. How about you?
I just don't get how that is enjoyable. I just -6. I don't know how. Being cold, and that's the debate, is it better to be cold or be hot? And I think most people say it's better to be cold. Because you're cold, you can put on layers. When you're hot, you can only take so much off.
Yeah,
You can't.
strip down to your bathing suit.
But then you can still do that if it's 110. You can't take any more off. With cold, you can put layers, you can put glove, you can continue to layer until you kind of get through it. At -6, you really can't insulate really against that.
You know what my son-in-law Rob says? He goes, "It's never cold temperatures. It's just bad gear.
Well,
Bad gear you have on."
it's expensive gear
It's
too.
cold.
Let's remember that. That's expensive gear too. So
That's pretty funny. But
yeah.
I think you got to be truly dedicated to your team
Yeah.
to do it. I mean, you have to be a rabid fan and to go out in Green Bay, Buffalo, New England, Washington, even at times.
Yeah.
Chicago, which is brutal. Now, Minnesota opened a dome stadium. You know, they have a dome stadium. Yeah. But you got to be a rabid fan to actually do that stuff, to tailgate and, all of that. I mean, and you got to protect yourself because it's dangerous. I mean,
they're talking about frost. They're talking about frostbite at the fair. Yeah, I mean,
frostbite actually does occur.
Yeah.
And so you have to protect yourself. But I mean, it's been beautiful down here. Actually, it's been beautiful, beautiful weather. You see a lot of people still in shorts down here and so on. It's just been really nice. But what's heating up, as you said, KB, is college football. And we're just getting started with so many issues, so many topics. And as we say, we'll try to not keep you here a long time, but we do. But we're going to stay as long as we got discussion, buddy. So let's hit it. Let's hit it.
All right. So, let's talk about recent transfer. Let's talk about transfers that are close to home first, and the latest there. So, latest today that has happened is 2 of note. And 2 of those are younger players who really didn't get to shine yet for Florida State. One of those being Camden Fryer, the legacy recruit from 2 years ago, wide receiver. The other being Kai Bates, I believe the same class as Camden Fryer, the cornerback, one of Surtan's guys. Both of these guys are redshirt freshmen, 2 years. Neither of them played any or at all. People are crying about, people are crying. FSU fans are crying because Camden Fryer put out his practice tape and said, as he should, said, "Here's my tape." But once again, it's against walk-on. He's playing against the backups, and he burned some guy, and they're like, "Why wasn't this guy playing?" I believe the coaches at this level, regardless of what you think of Mike Norvell, if Camden Fryer was burning defensive backs routinely against the starters, he would have been on the field. I mean, this is, we had the 1,000-yard receiver this year. We had good, he was playing against backups, guys. Like that's, and he should show what he has, because that's the only way he's going to get on the field somewhere else, as where he was. I believe if he was good enough, he would have played. So wish him all the best, Camden. For Kai, once again, and this is kind of what I say about all the people who are crying about Surtan leaving. Surtan, why is he gone? Well, Surtan was great at recruiting, but none of his recruits are playing. Kai Bates, Jamari Howard, Lester, all these highly rated recruits from 2 years ago, none of them are playing, including Kai Bates. And they're saying, well, that's on Mike. No, that's not on Mike Norvell. That's on Surtan. If Surtan thought this kid was ready, he would put him out there. And he didn't play in 2 years. And so this kid is now leaving to go to get playing time somewhere else. But none of these highly heralded recruits, and we say Surtan was such a great recruiter, none of these kids are playing. And I would not be surprised if more of Surtan's recruits left, because none of them have just played. The only one is Arnois, who played this year as a true freshman.
He played a lot, and
which is surprising because he played over guys like Kai Bates and Howard, and he played over these guys. So
right.
And not to say, I didn't think Arnois played like lights out. I didn't think he looked like a stud, but he was also a true freshman. So I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt that he played a lot, like you said. But you got to put 2 and 2 together. Kai Bates is looking to leave. They're saying, well, it's because Surtan left. No, this kid wasn't playing. That's why he's leaving. And so I think that falls on development from Surtan. Right. So I think those two go hand in hand. So kids leave for one of 2 reasons. They've really got good game play tape that they can show off and try to go grab a bag, or you're not playing. It's one or the other. And now we don't know if he was told he doesn't fit into the plans, or he just decided,
I'm going to leave. I'm going to go forward. I'm going to find a place I believe now I can play. The hype of coming out of high school where you commit to someone, you want to commit to the biggest teams because it's a lot of hoopla and everybody's watching you and all this other stuff. And I'll say Camden Fryer, a legacy. And I've said this before on our show, KB. I've said it. Yeah. Legacy signings. I don't know of the last legacy guy. I can't even name one that really has stood out at Florida State. I can't think of one. I think they're going to, and I think they are really, it's kind of a courtesy thing given to legacy players of note, okay? Legacy players of note to try to come on and make the team and be a star. But a lot of these guys, I would say.
No, who? Deuce Robinson.
Okay, there's one. But Deuce Robinson did not originally sign with Florida State.
True.
Okay, he did not originally sign.
Do you not think that helped in his recruitment from USC? Probably, because he grew up an FSU fan.
I think some of it did, but I think it was more his potential. I don't think Camden Fry. Now, I watched his dad play. His dad was a terrific player, all right, and made some great plays for Florida State. And this is no dig on legacy players or Camden Fry, but Camden Fry is better off leaving this team and go finding a place he feels he fits in better and can contribute, because he doesn't want to just sit on the bench.
I agree.
That doesn't help him.
It's like having on your resume 3 years of no work experience. Like, once again, you can only rely back on your high school ranking for so long before teams don't care. They say, what have you done? What can I reference in the last 3 years? If you have no real game tape in 3 years, that's a bad sign.
Because then you have to put out your resume, what you were doing. I was on the scout team. I played against these guys. Here's my practice tape. Here's some stuff from high school. You have to go with what you go. In business field, if you're not working, right? If you're not working for long periods of time, it's better to go get a job someplace to show motivation. I'm not just willing to do nothing. So I think it's a good move by Camden Fryer, and I wish him the very best of luck. I think Kai Bates can play someplace. I think Camden Fryer can play someplace. It's just not in this place. And they're not the only ones that will find a good home. It may be another Division I. It may be a Division II team, that they can go out. There's plenty of NFL guys who have gone from Division II to the NFL. You've got to play the game someplace, So good enough for these two guys. Other than that, we went over, I think last week or our last show, about the other non-significant people. We don't need to go through Jalen Lucaskin or Edwin Joseph. Now, those gates are going to open up on 2 January. On 2 January, they'll be able to, supposedly start talking. That's going on behind the scenes already with their agents. Their agents and reps are already talking behind the scenes. That's pretty well known. But beyond that, I haven't seen any names that really jump out at me as people that are going to be big losses at this point. But I expect, as you said, there will be other people entering this portal, and testing it out and see what's going on.
To wrap up the Florida State guys we were just talking about, and like you said, no one of significance really has entered. No. You could say, other than maybe Edwin Joseph, because of his experience.
I think he's the highest priority guy that entered.
But when we talk about someone like Kai Bates, and I want to bring it back to someone to Surtain and they said, remember, Kai Bates was part of the class we were supposed to get KJ Bolden. Of all the guys, KJ Bolden, CJ Lester, Bates, and Jamari Howard, of those 4 guys, and the one we didn't land, KJ Bolden, who's the only one that's done something in 2 years?
KJ Bolden.
The one you didn't sign is the most impactful.
And he was a 5-star guy.
And who is that? Yeah. Who should that go on? Surtain. Who should that go? And so that I need people to make these connections, because when they're mad that Mike made a move on the staff, you got to look back at the history of work. Now, does Mike need to make those correlations with all his coaches? Yes, he should have been doing that. He should be keeping people accountable. He needs to
Like
see their
Alex
development.
Atkins, right?
Yes.
Like Alex Atkins.
Like Pachuas, like Tokar's, like his quarterback. Like he should be making these correlations a lot quicker and in a lot shorter time frames.
And potentially
Tokar should have had
manager.
6 seasons. They don't even have a GM. They don't even have a GM right now.
No, they did those years.
Yeah, correct. But Tokar shouldn't have had 6 seasons of one quarterback being developed and barely getting to the NFL. Like, that's the thing. Like, so I don't mind the move with Surtain because you see, of those 4 players, only one of them has made an impact in college, and it's the one you didn't sign.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. However, let me make sure everybody understands. We're not here defending Mike Norvell. Mike Norvell's got plenty of issues and problems, and I've said he is not the future face of this football team. I'm on record of saying that. He cannot be the future face of this team. So when we say that Surtain, we're not
and I'm not
him
tearing him down either. I'm not tearing him down.
His son, did you see his son made a hell of a play on TV yesterday in an NFL game? Incredible interception, But no,
like, I just want to say no coach should be protected at this point, or no coach has been an all-star for FSU so far. Like, no.
I told you, I'm on board with you. Accountability of what's happening inside the program, on the field and off the field, has to lay on particular coaches. Because what we see, as you and I were talking on the last episode, the previous episode, is when these guys go out looking for new jobs on their resumes, they focus on their successes, be it one guy or 2 guys, and no matter what those are. You don't hear about all the other things that went on, about the failures in the resume. But that's normal in the business, in any business, right? You're not going to put up there, I screwed this up. So I'm not telling anybody they don't know. But yeah, I have to agree with you. When there's a large amount of recruiting, you're responsible for bringing those guys in, approved by the coach, approved by the defensive coordinator or OC. There's levels of responsibility, but the position coach probably owns 50% of that responsibility, let's say. So you have a point. You have a point that people can argue with. That put it in the comments if you have an argument of what we're saying.
Also, in the news of retainment, this came out, it looks like, earlier today, and I think this is one of the key players you have to look for retainment, is Jabril Rawls. I think he was one of the shining stars of this season. And as this post shows, it looks like we're able to retain him. I don't think this looks to retaining Rawls. It looks like in his Instagram post, he said that, it looks like he's been signed with a new representation, and they use his photo. So this tells me negotiations are about to happen. This does not tell me, like the post says, that we've retained him. No, negotiations are about to begin. And that's going to start with, hopefully, FSU. And if it's not, then he'll be taken easily somewhere else. But I think this is a kid that was developed very well by Surtain and co. And this is someone that you would like to keep, because I think he was easily your most physical and easily your most impactful defensive back of the entire season. And I think you would have at least 1 or 2 more years of him on the high end. And I think he looks like a player that could play at the next level. And I think he would be a great cornerstone piece to retain versus having to go out and replace. I think this would be a loss if you can't keep him. But this is a sign that negotiations are beginning very soon, and he should be a priority. So that is something.
Let me push one thing up here. Cool Breeze 10 says Mario Edwards. Is he a legacy? Mario Edwards Jr. Is that a connection?
I believe so.
And Cool Breeze 10, if you've got more on the connection of the legacies, Mario Edwards Jr. I'm sorry, I'm just not that. Maybe I should be, but I'm not familiar with that. Send us a little bit more data in the comments.
Wait,
if you
you're
can,
not
or someone else.
When he was at Florida State?
No, I know who Mario Edwards Jr. But what I'm saying is, I think Cool Breeze is trying to say that was a legacy player, that he did very well, and I'm just trying to, who was his father? That's all. No
Yeah.
big deal.
Yeah.
Do you
that'd be
understand what I'm saying? So
yeah,
I'll let Cool Breeze tell us more about the connection he's making if he's talking about legacy here.
well,
So
Mario Edwards, yeah, I believe Mario Senior did go to Florida State. He was with Florida State. He got drafted from Florida State in the 2000, the
yeah.
sixth round.
Well, yeah, he
So
had a great career in the NFL,
yeah,
right?
so yeah, Mario
Are we
Senior
talking
did. No,
about
senior
senior or
did.
junior?
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
no, senior did.
No, he was a
Um,
hell of a player. He was
yeah,
a hell of a defensive end.
yeah,
You know.
but junior had a decent
I,
career at Florida State as well with the team as too. So they
okay.
are
Okay.
related, I believe, and so I
Oh
believe he's
yeah.
correct.
Well, I think
So
probably
that is a
so.
good
And if that's
legacy.
true, that's a good thumbs up on that.
Yeah,
Cool Breeze. Yeah.
as a good
Okay.
and
All right.
and back to the legacy point, and I don't want to keep looping on it, but
No.
and I do think it does come into
Yeah.
play some. But when you talk about the hit rate,
Yeah.
most of the
Not
players you
good.
take aren't going to be hit rates anyway. So when you put a microscope on legacy players only, of course the hit rate's not going to be super high. Just
Okay.
because
Here's
the
my
amount
problem.
of players that shine, especially under Mike Norvell in his tenure, there hasn't been a lot of hits. So when you just say,
Well,
"Oh,
my
legacy,"
point is we shouldn't be giving up slots just for legacy players just because they're legacy,
but we don't know
right?
that. We don't know if he's doing that. I don't. If he's doing it just to do that, then that's wrong. I hope to God that he's not just giving slots to players because they're legacy players, because that sends the wrong message. I would hope no coach would do that,
Right.
but
Right.
I would hope that would not be the case, and that
Okay.
they're deserving of that scholarship.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So other things going on here. So we've talked about some of the retainment and FSU players who are entering, and obviously that list will grow and grow as those conversations are had. But the big news of the day regarding the state of Florida is concerned is DJ Lagway and his announcement that he is landing in the portal. And of course, this obviously we played DJ a couple of weeks ago in the swamp, and he came up on the high end of that in that win.
He was a good game manager. Yeah.
He was a good game manager. He made some mistakes, and that has been his criticism while at Florida, is that he has his highs, but he has a lot of lows, and he has a tendency to throw the ball to the wrong team at times. And this is a guy, his freshman year, they thought would become a Heisman winner and become the next potentially Tebow-esque, not the same style, but become the next great quarterback at the University of Florida. And it looks like that is not going to come to fruition. So, and from what sources are saying, and these are national media sources, are saying is that essentially Lagway is brought into his exit interview of sorts with Summerall and the new staff, and they kind of questioned him. They questioned him like, what is he about? And those meetings did not go well. And they asked him like, what is he all about? Because remember, Lagway got a big contract to come back to Florida, right? He was one of the highest paid quarterbacks this past year, and he didn't perform up to that standard. When you look at Florida and their record and everything that goes along with it and their expectations. And apparently that discussion did not go well. He may have felt disrespected and being questioned about what he's all about and what that means. And so, yeah, he's moving on. And it is hard. I think it's hard when you have a new coaching staff and the coach that recruited you to the program is left and Billy Napier, and he's gone. I think that's just a hard mix a lot of times, and the new staff wants to bring in their own guy too, and so I don't think this is a stunning move by any indication. I think this was bound to happen, but now it's where does he go? Where does this guy land? And what is the market's evaluation of DJ Lagway? Do they think he's hit his ceiling? Do they think he has a much higher ceiling where the right style of offense can turn this guy into a Heisman winner in 2 years and kind of revamp his image and his potential? Because there is some kind of indications of where he could go. This is the guy at PFF, Matt Chadwick. He puts out his potential landing spots for Lagway: Baylor, James Madison, LSU, or Miami. Those are 4 interesting programs, and two of those I would say are playoff potential candidates for next year. One of them being the playoff right now in Miami. 2 of those being kind of more mid-level competitive programs in James Madison and Baylor. So it will be interesting. What are your thinking or your indications of where do you think DJ would look at and where do you think he'll land?
It kind of reminds me of a situation of, and it's probably a loose comparison of the Cam Newton story when Cam Newton was at the University of Florida and it just didn't work out, and he went on and got out of there, and the rest of it's history on a Cam Newton who ended up having a pretty good career in the NFL. I think Lagway would be a reclamation project, as it kind of said in one of the comments there. I think he has ability. I think he needs to find the right head coach and the right offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach. This player has ability, and he probably has a higher ceiling than he's shown. I don't think he was on a very good Florida team. I think he did have to make mistakes. He was scrambling a lot of times. I'm not going to say he's going to win a Heisman Trophy or take a team to the national championship, but I think he has the potential to help the right team with the right pieces in place. And if they don't ask him to do too much, he could win a lot of games for a football team. The question is probably a good one by Summerall and staff. What are you all about? What do you want? What do you want out of this experience? Is DJ Lagway just looking for a big bag out in the portal? Or is he willing to say, you know what? I want to work hard. I want to use my potential. I want to go to the next level. I want to study hard and play the game right. I don't care so much about the money. I do expect to make X amount, but I want to come in and work hard, and I'll be dedicated to making a football team win. It's not all about me. I don't know if that's DJ or not. It's hard to tell. But I do know he's probably going to be, I hope he's not just looking for a big bag of money, but I do believe there are teams that will bring him in and allow him to compete for the starting position. Maybe not give him the starting position, but let him compete for it. He will end up somewhere else.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, obviously he's going to end up somewhere else. It's just, like you said, I think it's going to come down to.
But it's not going to be Florida State. Now, everybody's writing about that.
Well,
I would be very surprised to see DJ. Now, it depends. It depends. I can't imagine this early in the portal that Florida State on their board would have DJ as the number one quarterback they're looking at.
I don't think he's number one.
I don't think he fits the Gus Malzahn, and I have no indication. I don't think anybody else does in FSU media. Any indication that Gus Malzahn's going anywhere at this point, and it's getting late in the game. It appears he and Tony White will be staying. So when players sign up, they're signing up for that.
Yeah. I think most indications, and we should all assume that both of them are back, and that Malzahn will be back, and that's the type of quarterback you're going to be kind of looking for as a sort of dual threat. And so, yeah, I
and
think
DJ doesn't. I don't see him as getting out there and run like Tommy Castellanos did. I don't.
No,
DJ
but I don't think you necessarily need that. I don't think you necessarily need that to run what Florida State wants to run. I think what you need as a Florida State, you need a better passer. You need someone who's a lot more accurate. DJ shows glimpses of that. He can throw a deep ball, but he has struggled with accuracy, especially his footwork and stuff like that was atrocious. And I don't know. And once again, you don't even have a quarterback coach right now. So,
well, let's talk about that for a minute. Good transition.
And that's going to make it tough to land somebody. So, as you may all know, Florida State lost their quarterback's coach this past week. I believe was it confirmed today?
Was he lost or pushed out?
Well,
we don't know.
Well, from what everyone's saying, I think this does make sense, is that Florida State and Mike Norvell and maybe Alford have been helping coaches they want to get out find their next positions. So basically, they've been kind of off-ramping these guys into new roles and not just firing them.
Because Tokar is going to Buffalo as an offensive coordinator, so he wants to get into that business. I'm not saying that's a bad start. You got to start someplace as an OC. You're not going to start in the SEC as an OC. So you've got to pay your dues. So it's not necessarily looked at as a lateral move. It's not really a lateral move. It's an up. It may the money. I don't know about the money issue there, but
He's making like
we don't know.
450K, 400,000 at Florida
It's
State.
a lot of damn money. I'll take it.
Yeah, I think it's like you said, title is elevated, positions probably sort of, yeah, it's not super, elevated,
And
but
it
like
needed
title
to
matters.
happen. Either
Yeah.
way, it needed to happen.
And so it does seem like with what's his name going to UCLA, Ray going to UCLA,
As
and now
general
Toe Cards,
manager,
it seems like they have been helping these guys get to those positions so you don't have to fire them necessarily. And that also helps you with buyout money and stuff like that. You don't have to buy out contracts and things of that nature. So these guys definitely needed to go. And it's happened. Now, it maybe happened later than you wanted to, but thankfully it's happening before the portal closes. And once again, does that, it's happening before the portal opens, sorry. And that's a good thing. Now, who is your quarterback's coach? Who do you sign? Who is that? I don't have the inside scoop on that. Some saying it could be an internal hire, someone they elevate that's on the staff.
Who would that be?
I don't know. There's been some indicate. Well, like some of these 24/7 sites have been kind of hinting that it could be an internal guy. But I really don't know.
Let's bring this up, KB. Here's one. Mr. McMillan, Norvell, please hire Jordan Travis for the next quarterback coach. Let me say this. This is not going to be well taken by people. Jordan Travis should not be on this staff as a field guy. If he wants to come on as a graduate assistant or something, everybody's got this thing in their head that Jordan Travis should be the quarterback's coach at Florida State. That would be not an effective move. Jordan Travis does not have the knowledge and everything else that needs to go with it at this point of his life. Okay. Yes, I recognize what he did for Florida State. Yes, I recognize the leadership he brought. Yes, I recognize the rise from the ashes, but that would be a mistake. Okay. And I know Jordan Travis highly defends Mike Norvell, but he is not and should not be the next quarterback's coach at Florida State.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
No, I agree. We gotta, when you look at, kind of Ray's background and you look at Tokar's background and you look at even Mike Norvell's background, there's not, these guys don't have extensive program building or development. Like, they don't have a ton of experience. You're younger guys that just don't have a ton of experience. And when you're coming to Florida State, you need kind of program builders or guys with stages of experience and credibility. And Tokar's his credibility is Jordan Travis. That's it in 6 years and essentially his career. That's what his bio is tied to, is one guy having a career year in 2023. That's it. And I think, Florida State has not been able to, under Mike Norvell, evaluate the quarterback position or develop a high school recruit to be elevated to a quarterback position, which forces us every single year now to spend $1 million plus potentially in the portal at that position. It's just like with Alex Atkins. You brought in a guy from Charlotte, didn't have a lot of experience, to come in and you bet your trenches on him. He was not able to develop or recruit, develop or evaluate the right talent for that offensive line room, and that sets you back 3 years. Now you have to go out and spend and invest and replace that through the portal every year. These coaches that don't have the proper experience of doing these things has screwed Mike Norvell, and he's built the wrong staff. So I don't think you can go and put Jordan Travis into this. He doesn't have the experience. He needs to, if he really does want to coach, he needs to go start coaching, not do the podcast.
Absolutely.
He needs to go to, he could easily get a job somewhere. There's no doubt that some smaller program, he could maybe be a GA at Florida State.
He's got to cut his teeth like everybody else. There's too many people that they've got Jordan Travis so entrenched in their mind that he could just come in here and be the head coach. Some of them think that they're living in a fantasy world. And I agree with everything you said. Follow the career path of a coach.
But look at Chris Winkie. He went and was director of football at IMG Academy after his career was done. Then he went to the Rams as a quarterback's coach, and then the offensive analyst, and then quarterback's coach. And that guy was a Heisman winner. Didn't work out in the NFL. Didn't work out for Jordan Travis in the NFL. But you can't
well, Chris Weinke played more games than Jordan Travis.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Jordan
Yeah.
Travis
He was in
didn't
the
step
NFL.
on the field. Jordan
Yeah.
Travis didn't play a practice game. He didn't take one snap in the NFL.
But I think the Chris Weinke route is the right route. You have to cut your teeth, like you said.
And Chris Weinke has done that, and he's still doing it. He's still cutting his teeth. Okay, so to me,
and that would be a better pick if people want an alumni. Go out and get Chris Weinke at Georgia Tech. Like, if we're wanting alumni in here. And now, I don't think that's a home run hire. I think Chris Weinke's done well with Haynes King, and in the 2 years he's been at Georgia Tech, since he's been there since 2022. So the 4 years he's almost been there, and some development. I think that would be a better, less risk. That would definitely be the better pick of the two if you want an alumni in. Now, do I think that's a home run hire necessarily? Not necessarily, but I think it's a much better pick if Mike Norvell is going to go in that direction. So that's it.
Yeah, but, I mean, if Mike Norvell feels, and I think he does, I think he's probably torn. I wouldn't be totally surprised if Mike Norvell finds a position for Jordan Travis, who basically is doing nothing right now except doing a podcast with his brother. But Jordan Travis has got some money sitting in the bank from his NFL if he's safely guarded it. I wouldn't doubt if Mike Norvell found an assistant analyst position off the field for him, but to bring him in on the field as one of these more technical coaches, it would be a big mistake. And it's not fair to Jordan Travis, and if he's smart, to get involved in this unstable mess that is here.
I would agree. I would, if I was him, I would not want to get involved.
Hell no.
And a coaching type. Well, and that goes into our next point of why you lost a commitment of a coach this past week. Because when you're sitting in Mike Norvell's position, and you may be on a 1-year contract essentially, even though you have multiple years still remaining. It's hard for you to get top talented coaches to join your staff over here, and that's why you lost. This past weekend, your Brandon Harris. He decommitted from Mike Norvell this past week. And so he's headed to Florida to join their new staff. And that's a huge loss to Florida State, because we were talking about it just on Friday or Thursday, I believe it was, and the impact that Brandon Harris could have, and how he had South Florida ties, and he had recruited South Florida pretty well, and he had some really good ties across the South. And what he had done there coming at UCF, and we were going through his resume, and it looked very good.
And every FSU media site, and we talked about it too, because we're going with, what we see, had this guy penciled in for Florida State. But there was never an official announcement from Seminoles.com, which is the official Florida State news outlet.
And what probably happened is that when they were announcing these things, or that he would, just like with anything, you probably leveraged that, and probably Florida. It was probably between Florida and Florida State the entire time, and they leveraged it, and Florida said,
"Damn right."
And then Florida State is probably like, we can't do that. We can't pay that high, and then they got him.
Yeah. And he had a good background. We talked about him last episode. He actually had a very good background, and that's rough. Yeah, that was a rough loss. So now we have no DB coach, right? We have no DB coach. Now we do have the new edge coach, which we've already talked about, and that's Nick Williams. Okay, he is on board, and this should be a very interesting fit to see if Nick Williams can get better production out of the rush ends, because we had basically zero pass rush and pressure this past season. So that'll be very interesting to see.
Keep in mind too that the running backs coach still it was reported that we talked about it, that Tulsa's Cam Martin was supposed to sign, but that has not been officially made.
No official announcements.
So once again, that's been interesting, because Pete Nakos at On 3 was talking about it, I believe. But that official announcement has not come out yet, which makes me think maybe there's other schools looking at him. And once again, when you're talking about once that kind of gets out there, and that's probably could also be the agent of these coaches putting it out there that it looks like Florida State's about to sign, once again, to get other schools to know, hey, this guy has a 48-hour window for you to try to get him before he signs with somebody to negotiate.
Right.
once again, that could have happened with Brandon Harris, where his agent put that, oh, hey, this guy's about to sign with, tells 24/7, hey, Brandon Harris is going to sign with Florida State. Here's your
Wouldn't
here's
you
your
do
memo.
it that way? If you were an
Yeah.
agent, wouldn't you do it that way?
Yeah, leak it out there and then
Of
see who
course.
comes to bite. See who comes
Hey,
to bite.
that's the Sexton model. That's
Yeah.
That's who Jimmy Sexton. You
So
got to
the
follow
fact-
the model. Yeah.
So the fact that Cam Martin has not signed yet or has not officially been announced yet is a little concerning because that was talked about on the 10th of December. That was 5 days. And that has not come to be yet. Which
what we see is a lot of expected to sign out there. We see this expected to sign. You know what I mean? Or remember in high school recruiting, it's verbal commitments. Well, we see that none of that shit holds up. So to talk about people coming to this football team and program as expected or, it means nothing at this point because they're all being leveraged by their agents against the program. It's best to wait to see what Seminoles.com puts out. And I'll tell you what, I am not impressed by what Seminoles.com puts out or how their sites are organized. I think it's not good, in my opinion. I don't know about anybody else, but they should have a daily news thing going on, a news feed, so people can read this shit. It's like pulling teeth, pulling fingernails to see what information's coming out. So most of the time we're left with all these social media sites who really don't have a lot of sources, and we're expecting to sign, even from some of the national ones down. But here's the bottom line. At Florida State right now, in the program office and all these coaches, it's kind of messy. It's kind of messy. So if you're trying to recruit a kid from the portal or from high school, I'd feel unstable. I really would feel unstable.
Yeah.
Would you agree? Am I being too harsh here?
Wait, when you say getting a kid, rephrase that.
What I'm saying is we have so many coaching. We haven't filled so many coaching positions at this point, right? It's just like the kid who signed O'Neal, the quarterback, the 4-star out of Texas or Oklahoma in the high school class, just signed.
Yeah.
O'Neal.
He's already commented.
Supposedly he was really tight with Tokars, right? But they still got him to commit. He's in now. But you know what I'm saying? So he doesn't know who the next quarterback coach is going to be. He has no clue who he's going to be.
Yeah. I mean, he said that it wouldn't affect him leaving or not.
Okay, good. We're glad he's staying. We're glad he's staying.
Yeah.
But it does affect people, so.
Yeah. So we'll see. But on that point in the GM, because I do think that is, and we talked about last week, it was, I believe, the Rams GM that was brought up, and
Jaguars, I believe.
Jaguars, you're right. Jaguars GM, that was a candidate potentially that Florida State should be or could be looking at, because we think this is a massive hire for Florida State, and one they shouldn't take lightly, obviously, but someone that can evaluate talent and help with that for Florida State and overseeing the program. And obviously, I think it's something they need to make quickly, that hire, but they need to make it correctly. So they need to balance those two things. But it hasn't been done yet. And when we talk about the GM position, I forget where I was going with this.
I think you're going to, what is his role? Are we now moving towards a general manager? Because this has been it's been a trending topic as well.
Oh, I know.
What is role? Are you going to take the NFL model and make the general manager responsible for the personnel in the program? Okay, because at the NFL level, the Major League Baseball level, the NBA level, all of these, the general manager has a lot of power and ultimately has the final say on whether we bring a player or not. That's why so many head coaches in the NFL will use Bill Parcells. You've heard of Bill Parcells. He's a legend. He always wanted to be head coach and general manager because he wanted final say. I'm coaching the guys. I'm held responsible, right? KB, yeah. I'm held responsible for the play of these guys. Well, then I should have authority on who I want to bring in. Why should you tell me as a general manager you're going to coach this quarterback and I don't want the guy? See, so what will be those authority roles? I can't imagine a guy coming in from the NFL Jaguars and saying, no, I'll just let Mike make all the decisions. Well, what is my job then? What is my job? To organize the parents who bring kids in for a recruiting visit? He's not going to do that. He's not going to do that. Those general managers, college football is transitioning to that, whether they like it or not. That's why you see all these general manager positions opening up, and guys are coming from the NFL who have some of that NFL experience. Now, A.D. Alford worked with the Dallas Cowboys. He knows what this stuff looks like. I've heard high-level social media guys, okay, the Florida State guys, saying, well, you know, nobody's quite sure how this is going to work out or how it should look. Bullshit. All you have to do is look at the league above you. It will tell you. All you have to do is send a representative, Alford or anyone else, to the NFL office. They'll show you how it frickin' works. It's not that fucking complicated. All right? So what they should do is just get the levels designated responsibilities for bringing guys in, because a general manager is not going to come in cheap.
Yeah, I mean, that's where, I mean, of course, the fans have been saying, you know, if you can't get a guy like the guy at the Jaguars guy, you know, who's someone capable of looking at, evaluating talent, managing a program, getting involved.
Well, what do you want him to do? Yeah.
You know, would you bring somebody, and would it be possible for that to work? But someone like Jimbo Fisher, who has an eye for talent, who has operational, the issues he had is sometimes being too hands-on but he has never had an issue with bringing in the right talent. That has never been his issue. And could he thrive in more of that administrative GM role? You know, and it seems like he's been endeared back to Florida State, and would that be the right role for him? Or is he ready for a role like that?
I think that's the key. Does he want to coach again, which I believe he does? I don't think he wants a GM role at this point of his career. He wants to coach ball again, so I don't think that's even going to happen. But he did have a good eye for talent, and I think he's a good administrator. I just don't think it's the right timing for him.
Now, if you convince him, if Alford convinces him, and Norvell and him make it work, could you, behind the scenes, and not that this would be written down anywhere, but could it be something where if he becomes a GM, and if for some reason Mike Norvell starts the season next year 0-4, and you do end up canning him, then Jimbo takes over and is your interim head coach to potential,
or Gus takes over.
But that's what I'm saying is, if you want it, that's where you could have some continuity if you do decide that next year, if things go off the rails super early and you're like, okay, we are kicking him, then you have the continuity between GM, head coach, Malzahn, or Jimbo Fisher. And that's something that you discuss. Now, that's something that would be hard to discuss because you can't let Norvell know, hey, we're putting this plan into action. So, but I could see something like that being useful. But I'm not, this option I think is probably 15% reality. I don't think it's likely to happen just because he's never been in that role before. But I do think, like I said, from the talent evaluator perspective and the ability to, and being a head coach is not, you do have to have organizational structure and stuff like that. And he's been doing this for quite a long time. Could he step into that role and do it? Absolutely. I do believe I think he could. Now, would he and Norvell clash? Absolutely. I do think they would clash as being head coaches and having, I think, different strategic visions. Do I think that could be a good thing? Potentially. I do think Mike Norvell needs to hear some hard truths. And I think that could help him, and someone that's not going to be a yes man, and not someone that's part of his inner circle of him hiring his buddies to join his staff. I think sometimes I do think Mike Norvell needs someone that's going to look him in the eye and say, this is not the way you should be doing it, or this is the wrong way. You need to be doing it this way. So maybe it is the change that Florida State needs. Maybe it is a change that Mike Norvell needs to embrace, not someone who's a yes man who's just going to say, yes, sir, I'll do it this way like you want it.
Well, I like to boil things down to more simple situations. I really do. But if everybody's going to have a GM, every college football program in the D1 will have a GM. The question is, what do you want the GM responsibilities to be? You know that in the business world. What are your responsibilities and expectations? You should not go into a job unless you know what they are. So that would be a clear line of direction. Who has final say? Is it a head coach that has final say on the personnel, or is it the general manager? And I've already discussed what really goes on there. I believe that is the future. You do have input from the head coach. Okay? You do have the input from other coaches, but you can't have two people arguing about who's going to be on the football team. You can't do that. So it'll work, but you got to lay it out and who's going to gain that responsibility. Now, here's Myron Rolle, who I saw play as a freshman and got an autograph on a hat, which I still have. Myron Rolle was one of the top recruits Bobby Bowden ever brought in to Florida State. Now, this guy is super smart. He's a brain surgeon now.
Yeah, he's a neurosurgeon. Yeah.
No, he's a neurosurgeon.
Yeah.
He has a great reputation. I was at a game at the University of Maryland. You might have been there as well. You were there when he went to take his Rhodes Scholar examination, and then he flew in by private plane, and he was on the field, helicoptered in to the University of Maryland, and he was in the second half of the game. He missed the first half. Florida State ends up, did we win that game? I don't even remember.
I think we did.
Yeah. And he's he's not just practicing medicine, he is performing brain surgery.
Yeah.
So this guy knows, but he's not going to give up his practice. He would be an absolute idiot, and he's not an idiot to do that. But Myron Rolle, a very top-notch Florida State guy, one of the smartest players ever at Florida State history. But thanks for bringing that up, Finn.
Yeah.
So I don't think, I think if we're going to rebuild this program, then do it the way that's going to happen. You have to look out and beyond. You and I will talk about those things. Don't look what's in front of you. What's going to be in front of you in 5 years? What's going to be in front of you in 10 years? This is where it's going, folks. So we might as well build it right the first time if we're going to do this. So Mike Norvell is not going to stand in the way of these plans. So whoever's drawing up the grand plans to build this house should be thinking in mind of positions and responsibilities. Then we'll put the names on those positions. But we got to get it done. We got to get this done. And I hope it's happening behind the scenes.
Yep. So, yeah, we'll see what happens there. But I would expect the decision will come hopefully before January 2nd. That would be my, it has to happen. That would have to happen before January 2nd would be my deadline, but we'll see what happens from there. So that is a GM discussion there. And just falling back onto, because this all comes to play with the transfer portal, what's happening. Obviously, a lot of things are going to be happening between now and then. Coaching, I would expect all the coaching roles to hopefully be filled by the 2nd of January. If not, I would be super concerned
That's a short time. You're dealing with the holidays. I mean, when you're dealing with adults, it's no matter the holidays or not, you're going to interrupt the Christmas party by calling some guy and saying, I need this.
They need to be filled, filled before the portal opens. No, because you can't recruit a position at the portals if the position is not filled. I mean,
well, what did you talk about now? We were talking about quarterbacks. We got a little bit off site on that. What other guys, and let me bring one up here as we talk about quarterbacks, because that is the number one position of need on the field for Florida State. And I don't think anybody's going to disagree with that. Now, here's the first guy, the Heisman Trophy winner, Fernando Mendoza. And I think rightfully deserved. There was a young quarterback out of Vanderbilt who did not think so, was very upset, I guess, as the storyline goes. We don't need to talk about that. But Mendoza, I think, put up pretty damn good numbers. He won all almost all, if not all, of the quarterback awards, Maxwell and other ones that are highly known. This kid has, and he's a junior. Now, let me ask you this. Would he dare enter the portal and go for a big bag of money and leave Indiana? Is that a possibility
No.
in this situation? Or does he stay with Signotti and try again to bring Indiana back on top again and defend their crown in the Big Ten? What do you think?
No, once again, he doesn't strike me as a person that, is going to go chase a bag somewhere. I think they'll give him a fair offer to stay, and he'll stay. Or I think he can test. He's had 3 years. He'll be able to test the NFL if he thinks he's ready for the NFL, which I don't think he is, but he can go ahead and test that. So yeah, I think he'll either test the NFL or come back. And I think he'll be happy with that. Because he started at Cal, and then he found his position at Indiana, and it worked out. So I don't see him moving again. He had some rough years at Cal, and he's landed softly at Indiana, and he's done well for himself. But I don't think he wants the Heisman. I don't think he. Yeah, I don't. I may not work out somewhere else. Is the risk he plays.
What I would do if I don't go into the NFL, I'm going to stay at Indiana. I know the system. I know the coach. I know most of the players that'll be there, and I'm not going to. Why would I change that up for a few more bucks? I
would also make sure you get paid, because I'm not sure what his draft stock necessarily looks like. I think some mock drafts have him going number 1. Which is great. I don't necessarily see it, but I'm also not a draft expert. So, but quarterbacks, we always know, regardless of what the draft class looks like, quarterbacks always get pulled. And the draft class, I think, looks sort of weak for the college this year. So I think there's a good chance he does go, just because he'll probably get a decent draft grade, just because of the lack of quality prospects there are this year. Available. So I think there's a good chance they'll probably have to give him a very lucrative offer just to stay in college alone, no matter the school. But since he's 6'5", 225, that's the NFL loves that, right?
Nice.
So he's gonna get. They're gonna have to match what the NFL will give him in order for him to come back. Yeah.
Okay. What do you think of Finn's choice here as a potential quarterback for Florida State, Aiden Childs?
I liked it a year ago. He had a rough year. Now, you could say Michigan State wasn't a very good program, which is true.
Well, neither was Tommy Castellanos at Boston College, who sat on the bench last part of the year at Boston College.
Yeah. Aiden Child. I watched
a
lot more of him.
Does he fit a Gus Malzahn offense?
Yeah. He's mobile enough. He can definitely. Ran for 200 yards this year. He's mobile enough where he can do it. He's not Tommy Castellanos, but there's not
73% completion percentage.
Yeah,
pretty damn good. He must not throw a lot of passes then, right?
No. Last year was really, like I said, I was looking at him last year because he had a really great season last year. But you can see his accuracy is suspect. That's the part that scares me a little bit. I really think if we got to land a somewhat competent passer. I think that's what we are missing against teams this year, is like so many times Tommy couldn't deliver the ball deep, and we had players who could take the top off, and we couldn't hit them those 3 or 4 times, even those 1 or 2 times when they would have been an instant touchdown. It was just so hit or miss. And if we are able to get Danzy back, if we're able to keep McCoy, and if we're able to land another guy out of the portal, you got to be able to hit those shots, because the run game is supposed to set you up for those shots. But if you can't land them, then, your offense stalls. I don't know if Aiden Childs is an elite downfield thrower, but you guys can let me know. But he does get sacked a shit ton at Michigan State, so I can't blame him for that. So we just gotta find somebody, and this could be a guy that may not get a ton. He'll probably get a ton of looks in the portal. He may be a cheaper option for you versus other guys who are going to be available. But we need a guy that can hit the deep ball. I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's a D2 guy. I don't care if it's Ethan Childs, but we need a guy that can hit the deep ball. That's what I care about, and has obviously some mobility.
Here's a guy that hit the deep ball for former Florida State, Drew Weatherford. Drew Weatherford, was a decent quarterback for Florida State. He is now a big businessman. He is I believe he's still a part of the board of trustees for Florida State. But on the side, that is a totally different job. That's like a non-paying job. He has a real job in an equity partnership firm.
Yeah.
He was part of, or the motivating force moving forward for that deal they just did with
Utah.
So Dagby is saying, could he potentially be a general manager for Florida State?
Sorry, it was the deal with the Big 12. I apologize.
Yeah, Big 12. Yeah. But could he be a general manager prospect? I don't think so. Drew Weatherford's making a ton of money, equity. I don't think he might. I don't know, but he would definitely be a guy that I think would have a great reputation to come in for something like that. But I'm not sure that's clearly on his career choices right now.
Yeah, I think he's worked at, he was a speaker for the Florida House of Representatives, I believe, after college. After college he played for, did a little bit in the NFL, very little, then UFL, arena football, and then he went in private equity with his brothers. And that's where he's really been, and did some with the House of Representatives. So I once again, we can't be hiring, and not to say he's not a smart guy. Obviously he's, he knows the business world. I think we need a guy that's been a GM before, or been in a similar adjacent role like that in college or the NFL, and understands what it takes to be successful. Evaluate all these things.
Yeah. Derek Brooks is aligned with USF now. He's one of their top ambassadors down here. USF is building a new stadium on campus here in Tampa. And Derek Brooks has really just aligned with USF at this point. And Derek Brooks is tied to the Tampa Bay area. He's not going to be interested in something like this. You've got, Warwick Dunn. I'm not sure what Warwick Dunn is doing, or as a general manager. I don't think Warwick Dunn has the administrative experiences. Again, we can't put in FSU heroes into positions they're not really qualified to do. That is a mistake, okay? And it's not going to help the complexities of this program. So, and I love Warwick Dunn. That guy is, him and Derek Brooks are legends here.
Yeah.
More, than a lot of people we mention sometimes. So
what about Tony Dungy?
Very interesting. Yeah, exactly.
I asked you a question. What about Tony Dungy?
No, he's doing too much on TV. I don't think he'd be interested in this. I don't think Tony Dungy's ever been a general manager.
No, but he's got a lot of experience in. I don't think he has direct. Not GM.
He would bring in. But what you're saying is right. You could bring in a Tony Dungy. That'd be a big hire. I don't think that's even reasonable. But he would have to bring in some guys that are talent evaluators.
Yeah.
Talent evaluators.
Yeah.
Right.
I think he's past that point in his career too.
I think so too. I don't even think that's a reasonable to look at that. But we've got a lot of open vacancies. KB, maybe you take one of those vacancies, man. But you got to have the right resumes for these jobs. You can't just slap names against these things and expect something good to happen, right?
Yeah. No, it's true. It is very true, and
I have no idea who they're going to fill these things with. And then it's up to someone to set the parameters, and I assume that's Alford. Are you going to have Mike Norvell telling the GM, "Here's your role"? Does the GM work for Mike Norvell? Do they work together? Is one higher? I don't know. Nobody really asked the administration who's running that ship, right?
Well, every administration is different. I mean, everyone's going to have a chart of who aligns to who and who calls a shot here and there, and every school's going to be different. There is not a standard, but that will be up to the AD and the head coach and the GM, and they'll align responsibilities with the roles, and that'll be in the job description. So I assume, since Florida State's a public university, that there should be a job listing out there, right, for this
I don't
position.
know. That's interesting.
Because don't public universities in certain states have to list those jobs by law? I know certain states for certain roles, like Michigan,
right?
like in Michigan, I think they have to list like the head coaching position publicly as like
Oh,
part of the
really?
law. Yeah, there's certain like rules like
No,
that in
I
certain
understand
states,
what
like,
you're
where
saying.
they
We
have
have
to post it publicly.
Yeah.
But even though it's, you can apply but there's like weird rules like that. I don't know if the state of Florida is like that for like,
Yeah, that's
like
interesting. They have a
university ones.
sunshine. They call it a sunshine rule of transparency. I don't know if that type of position, the general manager, which is kind of a new position, would fall under that type of public employee hiring thing. I don't know that, but it's a very good question. Very good question.
It would just be interesting to see what the description of that role is and what duties and responsibilities they list on it. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think they're just really behind the clock here.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, they're going to fill these positions. And if they rush into it, I don't know how that's all going to come together, because in 2026, there is a very challenging schedule. And it is much more challenging than it was this season. And it includes Alabama. Now, one of the rumors for 2028 is we have a home and away series with the University of Georgia.
Yeah.
There is a movement, I think Georgia has brought it up, to moving it to a neutral site,
Orlando,
which would be Tampa, Florida.
No, I heard Orlando.
No. I didn't hear anything about Atlanta. Maybe Atlanta Orlando. I've heard Tampa, Raymond James, or you're hearing Camping World in Orlando. Yeah. Either one of those would be very interesting. I'm sure both of those venues are competing, right? That's what they do. They're competing venues. So that's a possibility. And I'm sure both areas would welcome that, and both areas would sell out. So, very, very interesting in that regard. Other than that, what else you got?
Well, you brought up the private equity thing with Weatherford, and so I wanted to tangent on that because we didn't talk about it last show, and then we can kind of wrap things up. But private equity is coming into college football, and I think it is something that people have brought up, like, oh, hey, and I think Utah has done a private equity deal. You see a lot of schools now raising funds, and there's a couple I want to touch on there. I mean, Virginia Tech is going all in right now. They announced a record-setting gift of $20 million that they received. I think Florida State may regret not going after Franklin in terms of the support they're getting now. Virginia Tech's going to be very competitive the next.
And he's gotten a lot of guys from Penn State to come over.
And that's an instant impact thing, and they're getting the money behind him. And Virginia Tech's gonna be a scary program. They that's the thing with NIL and the way the sport is right now. You can go from last to first in the season, and it's quick to accelerate up the standings. And it wasn't too long ago where Virginia Tech was the class of the ACC, and they were competitive every single year. And so this isn't something where they're going to be like a Wake Forest and go to the Orange Bowl one year and it's just a blip on the radar. No, if they build this the right way, they could be back, and that would be something scary for Florida State, because we're not seeing the same level of support and the same level of commitment from boost. We're not just seeing this anymore. There's not that momentum behind Florida State, and there hasn't been in a good while. So that's something. Now, private equity is something that is, I think, not something Florida State needs to dip their hands into, and I think private equity for Florida State would be a last gasps of desperation into that would be the last gasps of the program of Florida State football, because once
can you explain what it means up to the average fan? I don't even really understand it. What does the private equity, are they loaning money at a % interest rate? Is it a loaning of money? It's not a gift of money. What does the private equity firm get back from this relationship.
Well, that's the thing. It's not super clear, but with private equity, they expect to get a return on their money. So at some point, whether it's
So it's a loan,
they're getting a
then.
percentage of, yeah, it's an infusion of cash. It's an infusion of cash, but they take an equity stake in it, right? So they're getting an equity
It's like
stake in that
Shark
business.
Tank with Mr. Wonderful.
Yeah. So they are, they're getting a stake in it so that they can, make changes. Like a private equity buys out Red Lobster or buys out one of these, fast food things. What you typically see is that they try to optimize it to increase revenues as much as possible. And that's why people hate private equity in the kind of commercial spaces, because if their favorite restaurant or favorite chain gets bought out by private equity, they immediately start seeing the changes in it. Portion sizes get smaller, things get more uniform, it becomes more cookie cutter, because they're trying to optimize the bottom line revenue of every single portion, because all they care about in private equity is how much can we increase the bottom line revenue of every location. And when you bring that model over to a sports program, things, when a private equity firm is looking at the bottom line number of how do we get our money back? How do we make revenue from this? They are going to try to cut costs. They're not they don't care about being competitive necessarily. They are thinking about how do we make our money back and get our revenue? How do we get money out of this program, right? And so they will cut things. They don't care about your win losses. Now, that may play into the equation. If you win more, you'll make more, obviously. But if they can find the balance of, if we win 7 games a season, we can still make X, Y, Z. It's all mathematical. It's not, do we care about the fan base? So that means, if we take out 10,000 seats and put in luxury boxes, will that increase our revenue? So we can screw the poor fans. If we jack up parking passes by $50, well, the same people still come and we get that, so they're looking to maximize profits without any cares of the fans necessarily, right?
Well, do they have any authority over the program or input into the program? I mean, is that contractually? Do you understand? Do they have any control over the program, or they don't care? The contract says we give you X and we expect this back from X. Like you said, they don't care if you go 0-12 or 12-0. They're contractually obligated to get money back. And that's one question. The second question is, can it go bust on them? Could they lose all the money they put in?
So
I know you don't know all these answers. I'm just saying, I think this is a complexity that we'll continue to look at as we go, that most fans don't give a shit about. They care about the won and loss record and not so much what the take is. You know what I mean? But private equity is always about money. That's about money. Money going out, money coming back.
Yeah. So it's something where from what I'm facing, what I'm understanding of it is that there will be some leadership from what this private equity company is, that there'll be minority owner, like the one in Utah. There'll be like a minority owner and handle operations like ticket sales, media, stadium events, concessions. So they'll kind of take over that portion of it. And kind of like I was saying before, how can we maximize revenue on these things? So you may see changes in concession prices. How do we min-max the profits? Tickets, all the revenue generators, they're going to take over and kind of take over operations.
So they would have authority to control those types of things.
Yes, correct.
Then
the athletic director,
by contract,
and then there'll be a board. There'll be a board, and the Utah athletic director is going to be chairman of that board and stuff like that. And the athletic department would still oversee student athletes and scholarships and coaches, but it's kind of that merging of sports, entertainment, media, and building this conglomerate of the private equity takes over the revenue streams, and the athletic director still oversees student athletes and scholarships and fundraising and stuff like that. It's interesting, and I think it's dangerous, because what private equity is for profit. They are looking for profit, and many of these sports programs, right or wrong, don't make profit. And a lot of them don't make profit because of the other sports that are in athletic departments. Softball, soccer, swimming, track, a lot of these programs, not all programs, so it's a lot of programs, they are the revenue losing sides. And even football and basketball for a lot of these programs are money losing, right? They're not making money for the most of the 300, 150 schools out there, for the most part. And now when you're having to pay athletes, do you think when you see some of these games on and they're half filled, do you think they're making money? No, they're not making money.
That leads us to a transition, which is the future of bowl games. They showed some early holiday bowl games. There was hardly anybody there. I mean, players are opting out. Star players, good players with a future, are opting out. You've had Lane Kiffin opt out from his team, who's going to be in the playoffs, and leave. Fans aren't showing up on these irrelevant bowl games that aren't playoff games. The future of bowl games looks like it could be dying out. Okay, at the end of the season, postseason. Some people are now suggesting make bowl games like regular season games that count, that look like the bowl games, but they'll be up front in the season. Thoughts on that?
I think it's interesting. I just think overall there needs to be regulation on where the money's going, because why people are going to private equity is because these schools are running out of money. I mean, Ohio State claimed they had a $37 million deficit this year.
That's
Colorado.
crazy.
Colorado said they projected a $27 million deficit in their athletics program. These schools are robbing Peter to pay Paul, essentially, and robbing. But what I mean is their students, essentially, right, from tuition. Like, you see those student fees go up every year. Well, the student fees go to athletics usually, right? And you can't keep paying $1 million contracts to athletes. Like, you can't keep doing this. The cost of coaching contracts and player contracts can't keep going up and up and up. At some point, there does need to be a salary cap. And the reason why Utah and these schools are going to go to private equity is because they can infuse large amounts, hundreds of millions of dollars, to keep this thing alive. But then it's going to water down the product, and eventually they're going to want that money back. Or ticket sales, ticket prices are going to be uniform across the board. Going to be $200 to get in, $250 again, $300 to get in. It may be a watered down product. Like, that's why there needs to start being some sort of regulation on, we can't pay coaches $50 million contracts.
And just this week, and I'm sure you'll find out, or it's not even necessary, the president said that college football, the way the money is being spent, is not sustainable.
Yeah.
And there either needs to be a pay cap, which is nothing new, but is being definitely thrown around. It needs to be a pay cap and or federal regulation. I hope we don't have to have federal regulation on college football. All right?
Where's the
NFL.
Where's the NCAA?
Yeah, you don't hear anything about them. I was going to say that. You don't hear anything about them. I think they're afraid to say anything because they're going to get sued. So at this point, there has to be, I believe, again, the NFL model. They have caps. They have payout caps, and that starts to make everything more equal. That is the way this thing should go. In fact, if the NFL just took over the whole damn thing, it'd probably be better, because that's kind of what we got. We got players moving around. If your kid is going to a college, they got to apply. They got to take SATs. They got to get their transcripts. That shit ain't happening for athletes. It's a joke. These are professionals now, and we should manage these systems as professionals, which I think is happening when these two mega leagues come up. When the next TV contract, you're going to see a lot of stuff.
Yeah. So I would encourage everyone to look into private equity and the deal that Utah's doing and some other teams have done. I don't think it would be the right move for Florida State. I think it would be it should be absolutely the last resort, because I think you lose a lot of control. And if people weren't happy with the renovations to the stadium and losing seats, and if you're already not happy about how high hotels are, and that's out of even FSU's control, I don't think it would get better because you got private equity involved in infusing the cash. Obviously you can only beg people for so much cash from your fans, but that's just where, they get Virginia Tech is a private donor, $20 million, but you can't for so long. You can't keep doing that, getting random donations of $20 million to keep this thing alive. Like you said, there needs to be some sort of cap where teams can know, okay, this is what we're working. This is what we're all working under. It's not just some imaginary, because right now it's an really imaginary salary cap. And Florida State seems to be one of the few teams that is playing underneath of it.
You just hit it. You just hit it.
And
that has
Alfred's
been a discussion. It's like everybody's saying, well, Alfred thinks it's a real thing. Well, it's either a real thing or it isn't. And if it is a real thing, who is managing this thing? Now, the NCAA has an NIL office where these guys have to run stuff, contracts through and everything. But if this 20 million or 22.5 million team or sports athletic cap, who came up with it and who the hell's enforcing it? But I'm tired of hearing this. Well, is it a real rule or it isn't a real rule? It seems so stupid to even say stuff like that. How would Alford, he should go on these national shows and say, this shit is real. Here's why it's real, or here why it really isn't being enforced. Yeah. Put it out there so somebody can do something about it. You can't go into the seasons saying, well, we're only going to play by this rule, but we're not sure it's a real rule. How do you operate that way?
Yeah, no, I agree. Now, the last thing I want to touch on with private equity, and like I said, please go research it. If you think I'm wrong, let's go on the next show and you guys can discuss it and we can discuss it more in depth and you guys correct me. But someone posted this and I thought it was very interesting. It was, I guess Bud Elliott may have posted this in one of the 24/7 threads or somewhere in one of those discussion threads. And he posted, if I was someone trying to get this program, I'm assuming he's referring to Florida State, to completely tank so that private equity deal I'm trying to push gets better terms, this is exactly how I would want to see things go. And someone said, this is an insane accusation implication for Bud. Need more context here. So what I'm assuming from this, and once again, this is all context of what I believe he's trying to say here, is that, okay, if I'm Drew Weatherford and I have a private investment fund and this is something I'm trying to get Florida State to bite on, well, this is exactly how I want the program to be. In a tailspin, struggling, needing cash to compete, this is how I want to go, because then Florida State will become so desperate that they then will have to take my offer, and there'll be a lower ball offer. Because, once again, Redbird, which is Drew Weatherford and Weatherford Capital, are launching this college sports-specific investment fund. And once again, they've already started signing schools on. And, maybe this is the way that, maybe this is...
Hey, let me ask you this. You said fund. That when you said fund, can private citizens buy? Is that out on the stock market, or can you buy? When you say fund, it's not one of these like a Vanguard fund where you can buy shares in the private equity, right?
No, not that I'm aware.
No. I don't think so.
Usually, like with a venture capital, there's a bunch of partners in it who
try to get return on their money. It's
exactly.
Private. It's not public. It's not public.
Yeah. They'll each put 20 million, 50 million in it, and they'll say, okay, we're going to invest in.
Well, you know what I'm going to try to do, KB? I'm going to try to do this. I'm going to try to find somebody on a Utah sports program, something who would understand this and why the University of Utah got involved with private equity, and try to convince them to come on the show. I don't know if I'll be successful, but I'll give it a try.
Yeah. Do you think Weatherford is trying to push private equity on Florida State?
I'm not sure he could push it on Florida State. I think it would have to be a necessity. You need funding, and then it would be.
I think they do need. Do you think Florida State needs funding to compete? Do you think they need more? Do you think they need more funding to compete? Is a better question.
Probably, and that's a reason they need to get out of the ACC, and they need to all the cash they can get. And Tallahassee's not that big a place, and there's only so many guys with fat checkbooks, and they're not just going to keep writing $1 million checks for all this bullshit. If you looked at the average contributor, the booster to these programs, it's very low. Yeah. This is not like a Notre Dame or Michigan, Ohio State. We don't have that big a base.
It hasn't been around that long. Florida State hasn't been around.
No, it has not. You're exactly right.
Years.
So we don't know how much money they're hemorrhaging. Now, there's some public, and I will look into that a little bit, public records of what it is. And
you mean the endowment? The endowment?
Yeah, I mean, to what they're spending. Yeah. I mean, there's some stuff there. You don't have to look it up.
I mean, you can look up.
I'll look it up and try to see if there's any interesting figures. I'm not going to just throw tax sheets up here. But for all the public universities, there's some level of transparency on certain things. You know, player salaries is not one of them. Those are all under NDAs, I believe. So, you know.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, I think this private equity conversation is going to come up more and more. And I do think
well,
it's going to happen more and more.
Because unless regulation all about money. It's all about money.
And basketball, these sports, football and basketball, take a lot of money, especially now to compete. For the best players, you're going to spend money, and with unregulated salaries, it takes a lot of cash to compete, and that's where you get it from private funds. So, we'll see. So that's an interesting one. We'll continue to follow that. We'll continue to follow the.
Especially, it will become more important if this thing stays uncapped. If the well is just gushing and you don't put a cap in place and it distributes equitably across it's a problem.
Yeah. So we'll see how that goes. All right. That's gonna do it for me. Anything else you want to cover before we let it go?
No, I would just say this: tomorrow or Wednesday, I'm going to try to put out a short basketball review of what's going on. I still believe in our coach, Luke Laux. He's struggling. The team is struggling.
Very bad.
I thought they'd win that game, but they've been struggling a little bit. There's reasons for that. People are starting to question a little bit his way, his offense, and everything. I don't think that's an issue. I think he just doesn't have the right players. But I'll probably put out something, and if fans that like a little bit of basketball, and I know there's not a lot of fan viewership on that, but that's okay. I enjoy it, and I'll give my 2 cents. So look for that out there tomorrow or the next day.
Final question. Do you think there's a higher chance that DJ Lagway goes to LSU or Miami? Or follows his coach to JMU?
All very good questions. I think he'd go to Miami. I think he would probably go to Miami and give it a go down there because of the pieces. Where are the best pieces? Pretty good pieces at LSU, pretty good pieces at Miami. I don't think he's going to take, I don't want to say step down. JMU's Division I now and a coming program. It'll be very interesting, but depends on his relationship. If he has a good relationship with Billy at JMU, he may say, I want to go play with Billy again. And and Billy will find a bag there for him. There's a lot of people in Virginia that have some money and they're supporting that program down there. They're supporting that program. And I think Billy wouldn't have gone there if he knew they weren't supporting the program. He could bring him in and he could win a lot of ball games down there.
He needs a rehab project, so it could be a good way for him to rehab his image.
Yeah, because LSU probably will get their quarterback after the playoffs from Ole Miss. I believe he's still eligible.
Yeah, we'll see.
I could see that happening.
Final thing for Florida State fans is look at the quarterbacks that Florida State's mentioned in. Right now, it doesn't look like they're mentioned in any of the big guys.
Wow.
And that's concerning.
Wow.
And that should be a concern for Florida State fans that they are not, their name is not being, our name is not being mentioned with any of the major quarterbacks. Sam Levitt, our logo is only being shown with the Division II guy right now, from what I've seen.
I sent you a thing about TV viewership. Did you get that? And we were like number 2. We're still very high in TV viewership. How the hell we're getting it, I don't know. But I'm saying we can't keep abusing the brand. It will only stand up so long. All right.
Okay, that doesn't have anything to do with what I'm saying, but
I'm just throwing that in there. Okay. We got to get, because we don't have a quarterback, I guess is how I'm connecting that.
Well, they need to go after the best
program under control.
I'm saying they should be talking to the best. and they're not. It doesn't look
because
like.
next year is a tough schedule.
Yeah.
So
continue to monitor who they're going after. That will tell you a lot about how this program potentially projects and what type of quarterback they want to go after. But hopefully, obviously, we need to address a lot of areas. So you obviously can't pay, and we've said it a lot, you can't afford to pay a quarterback $3 million. So they have to find the right guy, but hopefully it's a guy that is a little bit more elevated than what we had this past season. So we'll leave it at that. As always, we'll see what unfolds this week. Every day is a new day for news and notes. So let us know. Follow us on Twitter on YouTube. Subscribe, like, hit us with any notes in the comments as you guys find new news, anything we should cover, any new breaking news for transfers, coaches, stuff like that. And as always, we appreciate the support. And as we always say, go Noles, go Noles. We, you guys, will see you soon. Check us on the next live stream. Take care, everyone. Stay safe out there.
Seminole sideline 365. Feel the roar, we're coming alive. Garnet and gold in the battle we thrive. This is our house where legends arrive. Every yard we take, it's blood.